The long wait is over. We can finally look at NFL Week 1 on DraftKings. I will be joined by special guest Chris from Draft Dashboard. He and I are going to give you our best picks for the main slate on DraftKings coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee from the Fantasy Football Consultants. And wow, this week I am so excited to have a special guest joining me this week to break down the main slate for Week 1 on DraftKings is Chris from Draft Dashboard. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me. I've been a huge fan of your show on YouTube. I've been watching it since your very first episode. I've been following you guys since day one, so I was real excited to hear from you and hear that you wanted to have me on your show. So thank you so much.
Boy, you can come back. You can come on anytime with that type of introduction. Well, likewise, I've watched your YouTube channel, which is very well established, and what I add a little bigger than ours, and your and especially your Draft Dashboard platform, which we're going to be able to look at a little bit in the show. But for those that may not have ever seen your channel, you want to give them a little background on yourself, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So I started playing fantasy sports about 4 to 5 years ago. And as I was getting into it, one of the challenges that I had was finding all of the relevant information in one spot. And at the time, I mean, this is a long time ago, but I was looking for tools to help me out, and they were all really complicated. I'm a computer savvy person, but I was having a hard time using these tools. There was just either too many options or they didn't really make sense on how to use them. So that's when I decided to start Draft Dashboard and just try to make it an easy to use research site for daily fantasy stats information, to try to help save on the research time that goes into building your lineups, picking your players. So that's how I started. It was about 3 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago now, that we started the software. And we've just been building and improving it ever since. We take a lot of our user feedback. If you're using the Draft Dashboard and you have a suggestion, you email us, and we've been developing it based on the user feedback. And then I do our daily picks from the software on YouTube every day. And that's how we've kind of built up our presence in the fantasy sports world. And that's where we're at now.
Great. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we get into our picks? And all right, with the Draft Dashboard site, and in one of the tools that I really like, the position optimizer, we're going to take a look at quarterbacks. And I am going to make my pick. Chris, I really like Joe Burrow. And I'm noticing you're scrolling way down on your site to get to him. And I'm also noticing the picture you have for Joe Burrow. He's in a suit. So I guess that's to reflect he hasn't played a game yet. But, you know, he's the #1 overall draft pick. And I really think that he landed in a great spot. A Cincinnati team that, you know, they're a bad team, but they actually do okay in the pass. Last year, 19th out of 32. But that was with a horrible QB. That was with a decimated offensive line. And that's with 2 of their stars, A.J. Green and John Ross, hurt. I really like Joe Burrow here at $5,800. You have him so low. Why is that, Chris?
Yeah, it's just because he's a rookie, so there's not a lot of information that our system can go on to put a dash rank for him. So he is buried way down here, and it also ranks it by salary once you get into different tiers. So because he's such a low salary, he's down here. But I mean, that's a strategic pick. You're going to get him at a low salary. You're going to be able to fit a lot of other studs in your lineup because of that salary. So, you know, it's really up to you. It's a risky play, I think, but you've made your case for him.
Only $300 more. I will go with Cam Newton. And thankfully, we get to scroll up to get to Cam Newton.
That's right.
And what I really love about the draft dashboard is it gives you a lot of the factors that we talk about on the NFL DFS Master Class site. He is at home. He is a favorite. And look at that implied total, 25. And I can easily calculate that because you provide next to his name the total over and under at 43.5, and he's a 6.5 favorite. So I usually have to go to another site and look it up when I'm not on your site, and it's all here. I really, really like that. The other thing I like about Cam Newton is check out the first, the second, and third column on your sheet. Miami last year as a defense, 32nd. If you didn't know, folks, there's only 32 NFL teams. Dead last. And 31st against quarterbacks, second to last. So I like that. And I looked up the news. Right now, it appears he is going to win the starting job in New England. So I'm going to go with Cam Newton in the spot as my quarterback pick.
Okay, great. So my pick at quarterback here is Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Seattle Seahawks. Matt Ryan was super consistent last year, averaging 21.3 fantasy points per game. He has a superstar in Julio Jones to throw the ball to and a talented supporting cast. Matt Ryan is 6,700 DraftKings salary, projected at 22.9 fantasy points here in week 1. Now, Vegas thinks there will be 48 points scored in this game, and they have the Falcons only favored by 1 point. So this game should be a shootout. So I like Matt Ryan here versus the Seattle Seahawks.
I like the pick as well, Chris. I think a lesson in the week 1 in DFS, attack the 2 dome games, Atlanta and New Orleans. They're the 2 highest total over under on the main slate.
Yeah, it's a good call.
All right, we'll switch over to running back. Chris, I think that there is a obvious pick that's going to be super popular. It's Miles Sanders. I think he's mispriced here at only 6,300 for his role that he likely will have. You have to be careful to make sure he will be healthy at game time. But I'm going to go with a different pick than what the crowd will likely go. I'll save some money at $5,500. Mark Ingram. Now, I have to tell you something. I hate Mark Ingram. He has failed me so many times. I have said to him, but here I am. I don't really hate Mark Ingram. I hate DraftKings because they're forcing me to start him, Chris, at only 5,500. Look, if you're not going to start Mark Ingram this week, you're never going to start him. Just as it says on this slate, look right next to Mark Ingram's picture. It states that he's at home because of that second green circle. Look at that implied total, 49.5 total points, and he's a 7.5-point favorite. I love home running backs that are favored. From a game script perspective, they should be ahead. Now, I know what you're saying. Eric, he's going to share carries with everybody. He'll share carries with Lamar Jackson. He'll share carries with Gus Edwards. He may even share carries with their new rookie, D.K. Robbins. Look, there's been no preseason. I think if there ever was a week to have confidence that they'll rely on their veteran, it's this week. At only 5,500, I'm going with Mark Ingram. What do you think about that, Chris? Am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy. I mean, he's a boom or bust kind of player. And I think he's in a great spot here for all the reasons that you mentioned. And you're right. If you're going to play him this season, you better play him this week because he's in a smash spot. And if they get rolling and need to run out the clock, this guy could have a huge game.
Yeah, and as you say on your site next to Mark Ingram, $1,500 more on FanDuel. So I think FanDuel has him priced more accurately as the lead back on a team that is favored with a high over-under. So, all right, how about you? Where would you like to go at running back?
Sure. At running back, I like Josh Jacobs from the Las Vegas Raiders playing the Carolina Panthers, who don't have a very good defense, and they gave up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs last year. Josh Jacobs averaged 16 fantasy points per game, averaging 18.6 rush attempts per game and 2.1 pass targets per game. So he's around that 20 plus touches per game that you want to see out of your backs. He's 6,800 DraftKings salary, projected at 15.2 fantasy points here in week 1. Vegas thinks there will be 47 points scored in this game, with the Raiders only favored by 1.5 points. So another high-scoring game, should be a competitive game. So I like Josh Jacobs here versus the Carolina Panthers.
I like the pick as well. You know what I really like about that pick, Chris? Your third column. Look how Carolina defends running backs.
That's right.
They were a sieve last year. Everybody took advantage of them. At wide receiver, my pick is Chris Godwin at $7,100. I again want to attack the dome games. The highest over-under on the main slate is this Tampa Bay New Orleans game. And I always like attacking with wide receivers the New Orleans defense because they do a good job against the run and not so good against the pass. But the one good thing they do about their defense against the pass is Marshawn Lattimore, who almost certainly will be against Mike Evans. Last year, he shut Mike Evans out, didn't catch a single reception in one of the 2 games that they played. And Chris Godwin went completely off. Now they have quarterback Tom Brady, who Chris Godwin runs the same routes as Julian Edelman. And we know what type of pair that those 2 were. So I'm all in on Chris Godwin.
Awesome. Yeah. So my pick at the wide receiver position here, I'm going to go right back to this game. And I like Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Seattle Seahawks. Calvin Ridley averaged 15.6 fantasy points on 7.2 targets per game last year. He benefits from Julio Jones taking up the top cover defender. Ridley was on fire to close the season last year, scoring 31, 22, 17, and 19 fantasy points in his last 4 games. He's 6,100 DraftKings salary, projected at 14.4 fantasy points here in week 1. We already know Vegas expects this to be a high-scoring and competitive game, and Ridley makes a nice stack with Matt Ryan. So I like Calvin Ridley here versus the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, good pick, although I will try not to hold it against you, Chris, that you now have picked 2 Falcons against my Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, we love that. We love this game, but I think it's a good game to target.
All right, let's go to tight ends. And look, I would love to tell you to pick George Kittle. Why not? He's the best tight end on the main slate, and he's going against that Arizona defense who was just horrible against tight ends last year. But I need to save some money, and I think I can save a lot of money by going with Ian Thomas at only $3,400. Look on your screen. He's $1,700 more on FanDuel. I just think DraftKings has mispriced him here. He has a lot of the attributes that we like. He's at home, reasonably high implied total of 47. And traditionally, Carolina likes throwing to their tight ends. And Ian Thomas is now the lead tight end. Greg Olsen is in Seattle. It's Ian Thomas's job, and new QB, Teddy Bridgewater, likes to rely on his tight ends. And you ask, well, what can Ian Thomas do? Given an opportunity, he is a real goal line threat. Last year, in limited opportunity because of Greg Olsen, right, he had 5 passes thrown his way inside the 10. He caught all 5 for 4 touchdowns. Not bad for only $3,400. That's my pick.
Wow, that's a nice value play. Amazing DraftKings price there. I'm going to go up in salary a little bit here. And I like Mike Gesicki from the Miami Dolphins playing the New England Patriots. So the matchup is not ideal here. That's why I think you can get him at a lower ownership because people are going to be scared of that New England defense. Mike Gesicki averaged 8.6 fantasy points per game on the season, averaging 5.6 pass targets per game. And he also had a nice run at the end of the season, scoring 13, 26, and 9 fantasy points off of 7, 12, and 8 pass targets. So he's only 4,500 DraftKings salary, projected at 9.6 fantasy points here in week 1. Vegas has the Patriots favored by a touchdown in this game, so we expect the Dolphins to be playing from behind, needing to pass the ball. So I like Mike Gesicki here versus the New England Patriots.
Okay, so Chris, I got to play a sound effect for you.
So crazy someplace else. We're all stuck up here.
No, the only reason I say that is your Mike Gesicki has a draft dashboard of 48. So can you explain that? Why are you opting for someone that has a low dashboard price on the farm?
Sure. What that's doing is it's factoring in this matchup. It is not an ideal matchup here. And if you look at the last few games of the season, he really turned it on. But there were some games that he didn't do well at all. So it's kind of, and it's also an away game. It's taking everything into consideration. He's more of a risky pick, which is kind of what the yellow indicates here. But I think in these tournaments, you got to get a little risky and you got to save some salary somewhere. So we both gave some nice value plays to be able to save some salary at tight end so that you can put the rest of your salary into the rest of your lineup and get quality players.
Okay, so for people who are using your draft dashboard, it's not like you can pick a guy in the yellow area. It's not prohibited.
Absolutely. You know, what you want to do here is look at all the information that you have available. Take the dash rank with a grain of salt. It's just something to kind of help guide you, but it's in no way is it the gold standard. You know, like you've said, fantasy football is inherently volatile. They only get a limited amount of touches. Anything can happen week to week, and you do have to take some risks.
Okay, I want to go back and get Joe Burrow then. No, just kidding. In our NFL DFS Master Class, the number one thing you should consider for the tight end is targets. And I like that you list up 5.6 is the targets last year, and then the 3 most recent games you're showing there. And can you explain, Chris, how you have last year's stats up there? What's going to happen as we progress during the season?
Sure. So these are all last year's stats. And as soon as week 1 is in the books, once all the games have played in week 1, this is going to update for the 2020 NFL season. So you'll see how many fantasy points per game they scored, how many targets they got in week 1, how many rush attempts, what percentage of snaps they were on the field. You'll see all the stats for this season as soon as week 1 is in the books.
Sounds great. Let's pick our flex player, and my flex player is going to be a wide receiver. And because I save money with that darn Mark Ingram, and because I save money with Ian Thomas, I have the right to spend some money, and I'm going to spend some money on Davante Adams at $7,300. You know what? I personally think he's the second best wide receiver in the game, only behind Michael Thomas. But look at the savings you get. $1,700. That's a lot of money on DraftKings, less of a price than Michael Thomas. And he's still in a very good matchup. He plays a Minnesota team, as you can see in the third column, that was 24th out of 32 teams versus wide receivers. And Davante Adams absolutely tore up Minnesota last year. He averaged in 2 games against Minnesota 10 receptions for 112 yards. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be looking his way early and often. I like Davante Adams this week.
Yeah, so just to comment on if you hover over this little stats icon next to the player, you can see the last 5 games versus Minnesota. So you can see here that he scored 27 and 21 fantasy points. So that's a handy tool to kind of see the player versus team stats at a glance here to see how well they do versus the opposing team.
That's great. And I also am really like the column that says ownership percentage, but I know that that's not filled out yet. Explain a little bit about how that works.
Sure. Yeah. So we're doing these picks really early here. A lot's going to change. But as we get closer to week one, what this is the projected DFS ownership that our system thinks that the field is going to play. So it really helps. It kind of knows if you're going to pick a contrarian pick or if you're picking a player that the rest of the field is on. So when you're playing a tournament, for example, maybe you want to pick one of these lower owned players to round out your lineup, like a 4 or 5% owned. But if you're playing a cash game, there's no need to get super risky. You don't need to pick a 2% ownership player in a cash game. It just helps you at a glance see what the rest of the field is going to be doing or who they're going to be playing. And it's wisdom of the crowd. It helps you kind of see where everyone else is at.
How about you? Who do you like at wide receiver or a flex?
Yeah, so my flex happens to be a wide receiver as well. And I like Terry McLaurin from the Washington football team. That's their name now for the time being. It makes me wonder how long that they took to come up with that one, versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who gave up the third most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers last year. Terry McLaurin averaged 14.4 fantasy points per game last year off of 6.6 pass targets per game. He was on the field for 82% of the snaps, and he's $5,600 DraftKings salary, projected at 14.1 fantasy points here in week one. Vegas thinks Washington will be trailing in this game by a touchdown, so there should be plenty of pass attempts to go around here. It's a nice matchup with a favorable game script, so I like Terry McLaurin here versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
I do as well. Look at that, how well Philadelphia defends against wide receivers. And I have to say, Terry McLaurin is an incredible talent. If he could just get solid QB play, what do you think? Do you think Haskins will be able to take it in his second year, improve his play?
I mean, I hope so. It's, that's the downside to this pick is the quarterback play. But the guy's got all the talent. He's got a great matchup. The team is projected to be behind. So, when a team's playing from behind, what do they got to do? They got to throw the ball. So I'm hoping that makes up for some of the deficiency there at the quarterback position.
All right. So you made your 5 picks, Chris. I have my 5 picks. I know a lot of our viewers like to see how a lineup would be put together, and we were actually able to go to DraftKings. Here is our lineup featuring a lot of the players that we just picked, along with a throwaway defense with the Jets at $2,100. So, Chris, don't be too offended. I had to go with my quarterback and my tight end because we couldn't fit in Matt Ryan in the price tag or Gesicki at tight end. But otherwise, we got all your other players on the that you mentioned and all of my players. Any final comments about our lineup?
Just looking through it here, it looks really good. And to your point about the quarterback position, it's the position that has the least variance. So if you're going to try to save some money on your lineup, a lot of times it's nice to save some salary on the quarterback position because it might only be a difference of a few fantasy points when it all is said and done.
So I have to give this huge caveat to all the viewers. Do not put this lineup in your DraftKings and go on a 2-week vacation. What you have to do is follow the news. Things change and values open up. We're entering a season, Chris, that really will be like no other. We've got situations where we had no preseason. We have situations where we're in the middle of a pandemic, so players could get injured. It could be announced. Teams have an incentive if a player tests positive, not to disclose it until the inactive list, which is 90 minutes before game time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and if for example, I don't wish anything on anyone, but if Patrick Mahomes tested positive, right, that not only affects Patrick Mahomes, that affects his wide receivers. That affects maybe an opportunity with whatever defense is going against them is probably underpriced. It affects a lot of things. How does Draft Dashboard handle these kind of late-breaking news?
Yeah, so our system automatically pulls in all the most up-to-date injury news. It's like every 15 minutes. But something special that we're going to do this year is we've added a feature for one of our admins to be able to manually override the injury status. So if there is one of those late-breaking Patrick Mahomes type, 90 minutes before kickoff is out, our admin is going to go in and just instantly mark him as out so that you won't even have to wait that 15-minute lag time. You'll see him as out right away so that, and that's going to show up on the homepage of your dashboard. You're going to see the recent injury changes, status changes, and then you'll be able to pivot from there because this has a little bit of a feel kind of like the NBA does where they release the injury report right before the games and you kind of have to scramble. So we'll see how that plays into this season. But it's definitely important to be aware of that and be ready to always check your lineups. This year, more than any, you got to check your lineups before kickoff. Make sure you get in there 90 minutes before, make the changes as needed. And don't be that guy that's complaining after the game start. Oh, my guy's out. Oh, ruined my lineup. I would have won. That's on you. So, everyone's going to have to, do their due diligence there.
Yeah, no, agree completely. The average Joe out there that's just looking at DraftKings and going, I'll pick this guy, is at a huge disadvantage, which is why I really like your product at Draft Dashboard. You cut down on research time for people tremendously because everything is right there, which is why when we talked, I wanted to be a partner affiliate to you. I will share with you, this is our third season, and I have had at least 20 different offers from a variety of different places to partner up. And the answer has always been no. It's been a polite no from us here at Fantasy Football Consultants, but because I didn't feel like it aligned directly with what I think our viewers would be interested in and could use. It wasn't a product that we didn't use ourselves. So both of those are the case for your Draft Dashboard product. I wanted to let people know if they want to help support our show, Chris has been nice enough to give us an affiliate link. We'll put it in the description. I'll put it up on the screen as well. But if you go in the description, you can just click it as an active link, and that helps support our show. And Chris, can you explain a little bit of the offer that they get so they're not making a big commitment if they want to try out the Draft Dashboard?
Sure. Yeah, we've got pretty much the best trial offer in the business. It's only $1, and you get a full 30 days to try everything in the software. So, with NFL, that's like 4 weeks. So, you can get in there, try everything out. You don't have any pressure on you, to jam pack everything in. You got plenty of time to try every tool, see how it can help you, see if it can help you save your research time, see if it can help improve your fantasy football scores just by a little bit. Maybe it tips you off to that injury that you didn't know about. Maybe it helps you find the defensive matchups to target. The main thing is it cuts down on the research time, and it should help you improve your score a little bit, especially if you listen to these guys, their master class, which I think is fantastic on YouTube. I've really enjoyed it. It's one of the best fantasy football content that I've seen in a long time. So I really think that's awesome that you guys did that.
Oh, thanks, Chris. And I do think it does match nicely up to the Draft Dashboard, because when you watch the master class, you go, oh, these are the factors. And then you look at the dashboard, there they are.
Right.
So, all right. So why don't you go ahead and show us, we saw the position optimizer. What are some of the other features that your members really enjoy?
Okay, so here we are at the dashboard. It's just got big blue button links here to each one of our tools. So the the most popular tool we already went through, which is the position optimizer, which shows each position and all the players, just like everyone has seen already. But the next most popular tool here is the NFL cheat sheet. What we have somebody that works for us here, and I do myself as well. Our team, I guess you could call it. What we do is we mark players onto this cheat sheet. So if you don't have a lot of time, let's say you're really busy, but you want to get a lineup in, you don't even want to go through the stats. You don't even want to look at numbers. You can just come right here into this cheat sheet, and we have all these players ranked by their salary, depending on what site that you're on. You can change over to FanDuel right up here, this little icon. But we're on DraftKings right now, so you can see the top stud plays here. You can see the mid-range plays that we like, and then the value plays that we like. A really nice value play here on in Hayden Hurst. But this will update as it gets closer to kickoff, as things change. If an injury comes out, if one of the running backs, if Josh Jacobs is injured, well, most likely his backup is going to be here on the cheat sheet as a value play. So people really like this cheat sheet here. Let me go back to the dashboard. Okay, the next tool that I want to just show real quick is the player trends tool. Okay, so this tool shows the salary difference between the two sites, DraftKings and FanDuel. So you can see Ian Thomas, which was mentioned earlier, right up here, is priced up $1,700 more on FanDuel. So what that indicates here is that he's a fantastic value play on DraftKings. It looks like he was underpriced on DraftKings. So this salary difference tool here helps you find the players at each position that may be underpriced. The final tool here is once you make your picks, what you do is you tap on this little target icon next to the players that you like, and we call those your watched players. So you can see I've watched 11 players here, and the lineup optimizer will build a lineup favoring your watched players. So this lineup was built using all of our watched players. This is just a random sample lineup here. We don't recommend that you just plug this lineup in, even though you can. But what we recommend that you do here is take a look at the upgrades that are available. You can see from your salary that you have remaining, which is only $100 here. So it shows you here that you could upgrade Josh Jacobs in your flex. You could upgrade him to Mike Evans or Aaron Jones. So maybe you prefer Mike Evans here in this spot. So you can go ahead and make that change right here. So this drop down is really handy. It's a real easy way to change your players, change the lineup. And when you have a lineup that you like, you go ahead and click Save Lineup. And then you can access your saved lineups from your My Saved Lineups page. And you can also export them to your the daily fantasy site that you're playing on. So let's say that you make 10 lineups for DraftKings or 10 lineups for FanDuel. You can select the lineups that you want to play. You click on export. It will download a SCV file that you then upload to DraftKings or FanDuel, and that will help save a lot of time entering those lineups. I would say those are the three most popular tools here. There's a few others, but if you guys want to try it out, like you said, there's a link in the description, $1 for 30 days, and you can come on in and try everything and see how it helps you.
Yeah, I really like the cheat sheet, and I know you didn't go over the sleepers and studs, because a lot of times what happens is I'm trying to construct a lineup, and I'm like, gosh, I need to get a guy who's really cheap to make this lineup work. And it's not that I'll just automatically fill it with that, but it'll make me think about guys, and I'm like, hey, I forgot about this guy, and it will trigger my memory that, yeah, this is a guy I think wouldn't be worthy playing. Thanks so much, Chris, for giving us that detailed look at Draft Dashboard.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's been fun, and I'll do it again later in the season. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, you've been nice enough to be a guest on my show. Guess what? I am going to be a guest on your show, and on our show, we did DraftKings for week 1. we made our 5 picks you made, 5 picks I made for FanDuel. And the only place you can see that is on Chris's Draft Dashboard YouTube channel. So be sure to go over there. And as a little teaser, there is a guy, if you are playing FanDuel, there is a guy, in my opinion, who is an absolute must start. He is just horribly underpriced on FanDuel. But check out the video. It is right over on my left. I'll post it there. You can click on it and go over to Chris's channel and check out the video. Thanks again for joining us, and we wish everyone good luck in week 1. I will be back next week with a final lineup for week 1 on DraftKings. See you later, everybody.